Andrew Tate sat down with mob boss Michael Franzese, who has since became a Christian, and shares his thoughts on Jesus while hearing Michael Franzese's experience of a completely transformed, revolutionized life, going from being in the mob to now being a podcaster and a thought leader and speaking at churches. So this is interesting. I've kept up with Michael Franzese for years.
Let me ask you, is there a reason you were drawn more to Islam than Christianity?
I read both books. I don't know if it was my time inside of Islamic countries. I felt God. I felt it. I don't know how else to say it. I felt it. I felt it more when I went to the mosque. I felt it when I was in an Islamic country. I felt it. And I've analyzed this about myself heavily because I believe that feedback is how you get good at anything. Practice is, people think practice makes perfect. That's a lie. Feedback makes perfect. And I was actually discussing this with somebody who was talking about my podcast. He says, oh, your podcasts are very good. And how do you talk so well? And I said, well, he goes, you must be practicing. I said, I don't practice because I'm 37. You're 42. You've been practicing longer than me. So how come I can speak better than you can? Because I watch myself back and I analyze. I learn new words. Feedback is how you get good at something. So I try to analyze my own state of mind all the time. And I try and work out, why did I feel like an Islamic society was closer to God than a Christian society? Is it because of what's in the book? Or is it because of the society I'm in? Is it because of the society? Maybe. And I'm just being perfectly brutally honest here. Maybe when I look at religion, I say, well, if a religion, what's the primary goal of a religion? Is it to save souls? Yes. But also, wouldn't you argue the primary goal of religion is to preserve a society to a degree? If Islam can...
Hold on. Andrew Tate just said, I became a Muslim because of the feels.
The vibes.
The vibes. Okay, so first of all, it wasn't anything objective. It wasn't anything he learned about the prophet. It wasn't anything he learned about the Bible.
He had a mountaintop experience.
He just felt it. I felt it. Now, if this was a woman saying these same exact things about anything but Islam, he would roast them. If this was a woman saying this about why she feels like she's called into the marketplace to start a business and not be at home, he would cook her.
That's a fact.
So the fact that he's using the same framework that he would instantly criticize and tear apart if a woman said these same things, we use, oh, well, women are emotional, blah, blah. But yet his conclusions for Islam being true is because of how he felt. That's, wow. All right, I didn't expect it to go there.
Its primary purpose is to preserve society.
Okay, so Jesus did not come to preserve Roman occupation in Israel, Palestine. That is not why Jesus came. Jesus came to revolutionize society. Jesus came to revolutionize how servants were treated, how women were treated, how people who were marginalized, like really marginalized, not like the alphabet marginalized, like really marginalized, were treated.
Yep.
He came to revolutionize society, not preserve society. So where are you pulling this from?
Religion, what's the primary goal of a religion? Is it to save souls? Yes. But also, wouldn't you argue the primary goal of religion is to preserve a society to a degree?
Nah.
If Islam can preserve Islamic societies, if women are women, if men are men, if even in war zones, even you can look at the worst countries on the planet today, they're Islamic countries. If they're still all praying, they're still all with their wives, they're still all feeding. God is the only thing they've got. They don't have anything else. They're not afraid to die for what they believe in. God is all they've got left. You know what's interesting? Someone said to me, they said, imagine when you look at movies and you see a post-apocalyptic Christian country, like, you know, something's happened. You see riots, you see looting, you see all these things, right? He goes, there's a bunch of Islamic countries right now that are already post-apocalyptic. You don't see any of that because they believe in God. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's just I felt it holds society together. And I'm not going to sit here and argue that I'm right. I'm not going to argue against Christianity at all. I respect Christianity. I was raised Christian. I have absolute respect for Christians. My brother's a Christian. I'm not going to sit and say that I'm right and anyone else is wrong. I'm just saying perhaps it's as simple as if I send my children to school in Dubai, 99% of the problems we've talked about, I don't have to worry about anymore. Maybe it's that simple.
That's beside the point. Like, I don't know if we could ever point to and say there's ever been a Christian society. I think there's been Christian influence. I think there's been Christians in power. But to say there was like a Christian, even when the state and the church were intertwined, I don't know if we could ever say there's a Christian society in the sense that he's talking about. Go ahead.
It's like, okay, boom.
Let me tell you the one thing that separates Christianity that's scary to everything else on earth, in my view.
Come on, Michael.
If Christians are right, and the only way to get to heaven, which I know you believe in, we believe in heaven and hell, is through Jesus Christ, then every other religion could be good. There's no question about that. But the separation is that if you don't believe Jesus is the Son of God,
that's right,
then you don't get to heaven.
That's right.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
And you know, when I was in the hole, I kind of challenged God at that moment, you know, because my wife was Christian, my mother-in-law Christian. They were telling me, and I didn't have time for that. But now I'm getting in there, and you know what I developed, Andrew? I developed a healthy fear of hell.
Yep.
You're in the hole. If this is it, if this is the rest of eternity like this, only a million times worse, and even if it isn't worse, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm here alone by myself, separated from everyone I love, and this is it. Eternal nothing. I said, I need to find out what's true. And at that point in time, I had my Bible in there. I had my wife send me every book you can imagine. Christian faith, Hindu, Muslim, everything. I was reading everything. And for me, the separation was, okay, all of this makes sense. But if Jesus is the only way to heaven, and I reject that, then no matter how good I am, no matter what else I do, I'm going nowhere. This is going to be eternity for me.
Right.
So this is the separation. And I think people have to make that choice.
It's a super interesting conversation, and I can't wait. I'd love for us to do a podcast in a couple more years when I've read them both a couple more times. And I know I have more to learn. This is on one subject where I'm 100% a student.
But remember this, the only thing I'm going to tell you, I'm sure your brother told you this.
Oh, yeah, every day.
Everything could be right, 100%. Million good people, the countries are good, everything. And you know what? You know, you're more safe in a country. The United States is not safe anymore. There's a lot of Christians there, a lot of people that profess to be Christians, but really aren't Christians. Because you can say you're a Christian, but if you're living in a pattern of sin, if you're not living like a Christian, you're not a Christian. Doesn't matter. But that's the one separation.
I understand.
And that's important. And that's something you really need to figure out and think about. Because if he is the only way to heaven.
So what he's doing right here, and we may disagree with it. Some people may disagree with it. So there's two approaches, and you guys go do your own research on this. It's actually really interesting. There is this fascinating video of Dr. James White in a mosque, and the way he talks about Jesus and to Muslims is the way Michael Franzese just did. Is instead of chasing down their prophet and their book and trying to discredit all that, he just lays out what the gospel is. There's noble things you guys do. You pray, you have values, morals, you memorize the Quran, you do all these things so your society is safe. Okay, but the issue of sin is only really dealt with Jesus, right? There's that approach, the James White approach. Then there is the, and the Muslims that watch this will instantly be like, ugh. Then there's the David Wood approach. Right? Which is like, I'm going to pick apart and mock your prophet and shred your prophet and try to be funny and poke. There's that approach. I think there's potentially a time and a place for both approaches. In this context, Michael Franzese is not going to go down the rabbit hole of trying to discredit Islam, their prophet, and well, what about Aisha and the 9-year-old and this and, you know, spreading the faith with the sword. Like, he's not going down. He's just saying, look, all that's fine. You guys got noble societies, morals, cool. However, you don't have a solution and an antidote for sin. There's no guaranteed way that atonement for your sins is being dealt with. Right? And again, I think there's a time and a place for both. Inspiring Philosophy, Michael Jones debated, is child brides ethical with a Muslim dude. That was like, oh, whoa, you just kind of let them talk. Like, let them talk and explain to me why 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds are eligible for marriage. And right, you just let them talk. So sometimes there's a time to poke apart, but right here, I think he is intentionally trying to stir Andrew in a different way, which I appreciate. Go ahead and play the rest.
How good you are, no matter how great the country is, doesn't matter.
How religious is the mob?
And you know, to me, this is working. You know how you know it's working? Because Andrew changes the conversation.
Deflects.
He deflects. He doesn't want to deal with what's actually being said. If Jesus is the only way, that is scary. You should have a healthy fear of hell. And you could be good, you could be noble, you could be righteous, you could keep all the rules. But if you reject the cross, you're in a very dangerous. And so then he pivots to, well, how dangerous is the mob?
I want to get back to one thing, because this is important to me, and we're establishing a relationship now. I want to go back to religion for a minute.
Sure.
Just for a minute.
Sure.
And I know you have your brother, and I'm sure you've had very in-depth discussions about it.
Yeah.
But when I came to Christ, for me, everything is about evidence. Everything, Andrew. I don't take things everything is about evidence. You got to prove it to me. And when I did my search, without getting to all this now, I really found out that the Bible is so supported by evidence. It's a fact. Jesus rose from the dead. It's a fact.
Come on.
And what separates everything else from me is, if I want to enjoy eternity and be in heaven, then I have to accept Christ. And that's all I want to say. That's the bottom line. So when you study Islam and you get there in 2 years, just remember, could be a great religion. I have a lot of Islamic friends. I have so many people online trying to convert me to Islam.
I bet you do, yeah.
And you know what? They're so nice about it.
Yeah.
I mean, just really, we've had in-depth discussions, and I tell them the same thing. I respect, you know, so many of you I respect. So many I met in prison. They carry themselves best in prison. They really would. Them and Christians too, but they carry themselves well all the time. I said, but there's a separator for me. Either I believe in Jesus or I don't.
Yeah.
Either I get into heaven or I don't. That's it. And for me, I'm convinced. And I tell people, listen, I'm by far not the best Christian out there. You know, I still have, you know, old thoughts in mind, and sometimes I act on them, sometimes I don't. But my faith is rock solid.
Yeah.
And it's rock solid, built on evidence. I want to leave you with that. Okay?
And you know, that's a perfect way to end, because like I said, Bailey, who I live with, is a devout Christian. My brother as well. They're trying to say the same things, and I'm open to learning. I don't want to be a closed-minded. I will come to my conclusions, and God will lead me where He leads me, and I'm open to it, and I love to hear it, and I have absolute respect for Christianity.
I like that Michael brought it back.
He did.
He brought it back.
He's like, I need you to understand this.
I need you to understand what. No. Like you just asked me if the mob is religious. No. Let's get back to what I was really trying to tell you.
Which goes to show that he planned this out way ahead of time.
I think so.
He's like, I'm gonna talk for a long time, and then at the very end, I'm gonna bring up Jesus, and he has to know that Jesus is real.
Well, shout out to Michael Franzese, man. That's amazing. Yeah, I think there's different approaches. Different people have different approaches, and I think that was his approach. And I think that I would probably take a similar approach. I wouldn't try to chase down every single thing about Islam and why it's wrong. I would just say Jesus deals with sin, and the resurrection is true, and lean into that conversation. So I think he did a great job talking about that. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Comment down below and let me know what you think. And be sure to check out this video that YouTube is recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.